Lord of Mystery, The Return of the Stars Chapter 71-80. C. Dawn. In the captain's cabin, the genie's clone was sent back to the wishing lamp by the chain of order. Bernadette just watched all this quietly. She couldn't stop it from happening, so she could only calm herself down. The genie's phantom appeared from the wishing lamp, looked at Bernadette and said, "Tonight, I met a familiar existence there, the mother tree of desire." Quote? Bernadette looked solemn and alert. "Don't be so nervous, he is still trapped outside the starry sky and can't enter this world. Why can he appear there too? The power of the Master of the Stars has increased again. Tonight, he crossed the distant time and space in front of me and led the mother tree of desire." At this point, the genie sighed. "The Hall of Stars, the outer gods gather, how incredible and shocking this is." Bernadette was also shocked by the words, "The Hall of Stars, the outer gods gather." According to the genie, the Master of the Stars is constantly recovering his strength. Once the power is fully restored, can't he lead all the outer gods in the entire universe? Don't think about it anymore. Bernadette stopped thinking about it in time and didn't dare to think about it any further. Otherwise, she was afraid that she would be contaminated by the knowledge and mystery contained here. It was about the secrets of the gods outside the entire universe, which she couldn't spy on now. The lamp god also understood this truth. He didn't want Bernadette to get into trouble now. After all, she was his follower. "I got a message from the Mother Tree of Desire. Recently, he will hold a god's descent ceremony in West Balam." He didn't say directly that this was a bet between him and the Mother Tree of Desire, otherwise Bernadette might not help him. God's descent ceremony. Yes, the Mother Tree of Desire has reached an agreement with the Lord of the Stars and is preparing to make an attempt. If you don't want his power to interfere with the real world to increase again, inform the Seven Gods Church of this news and let them stop it. Seeing that Bernadette did not agree immediately, the lamp god said again, "I did not lie about his coming to God. If it is not stopped, Exabalam will be completely ruled by his power." "Why did you choose to betray the Mother Tree of Desire? As you said before, I have an average relationship with the group of foreign gods outside the starry sky. Such reasons are not enough to convince me. I just don't want the power of the Mother Tree of Desire to destroy the balance too early. Let the stable situation be maintained until the end of the world, which is what I want." Finally, the lamp god reminded again, "Go find the believers of the stars as soon as possible, otherwise your world will not be able to support the predicted doomsday, and he will be the biggest variable." The shadow of the lamp god merged into the wishing lamp, and Bernadette was left alone in the cabin to think. Based on her many years of experience with the lamp god, he did not lie about the Mother Tree of Desire wanting God to descend. Even if there was a lie, it was the people of the Seven Gods Church who were busy in the end, and she would not go to West Balam to join in the fun. Recently, there were too many troubles, and she had been sleeping restlessly, so she missed Backlund's food a little. After a long time, Bernadette wrote a letter, summoned her messenger, and revealed the news to the people of the Seven Gods Church. After confirming the truth of this god's descent, she would inform the Seven Gods Church of the existence of the Lord of the Stars and let them go to find the believers of the stars on her behalf. The headquarters of the Rose School. Under the dim moon, a small hill was hidden in the cover of the woods. Deep in the dense forest, a huge black tree rose from the ground. Under the canopy that was enough to block the light of the sun and the moon, countless vines and branches were entangled, and human-faced fruits were hung on the branches, closing their eyes and swaying gently with the breeze. At the main trunk, a figure whose facial features could not be seen clearly stretched out his arms to hug the trunk, letting himself fall asleep with hundreds of dark green branches wrapped around him. At the root of the tree, a group of people gathered nearby, forming a circle around the black tree, their eyes full of madness and admiration. The leader was a middle-aged man with light yellow curly hair, obvious sunken eye sockets, and a thin face. There was uncontrollable malice and madness in his brown eyes, and there were golden nails covered with fine patterns on his thick lips, sealing his entire mouth, giving people a feeling of both evil and horror. The black clouds in the sky gradually dissipated, revealing a touch of crimson moon. The madness and shouting of the crowd reached the highest point. At this time, wisps of black light emerged from the tree, startling the human-faced fruits that had closed their eyes. One by one, finally all the human-faced fruits were awakened, and the whole tree began to tremble, making a dull and dry sound that resounded throughout the hill. West Balam, hold a divine descent. Go find the apostles of the stars. Pay attention to the power of the stars. 3 voices rang out, and the devout believers had already prostrated themselves on the ground, trembling with excitement. Their God, their only Lord, once again sent down an oracle. After a while, the oracle's voice dissipated, and the thick black light also dissipated. The human-faced fruit closed its eyes again, and everything returned to calm again. The figure who had been hugging the tree, the branches around him retreated one by one, and he, floating in the air, with his back to the believers below, was filled with a gloomy and evil aura. His back was covered with black viscous liquid, and strange shapes bulged out from his arms and shoulders, as if something could grow out of those bulges. Mahamus, you go and take charge of the matter of God's descent. Others, send a message and let all members do their best to find the apostles of the stars. After the 2 orders were issued, the middle-aged man called Mahamus respectfully led the believers away from here. The power of the stars. Mother, are you afraid of this power? With a murmur, a bloodshot, black and white eyeball fell from his body and rolled to the ground, followed by the second eyeball, the third. Finally, hundreds of eyeballs covered the ground below, and the black light began to flicker, as if they were looking for something. After a while, his body trembled slightly, and he bent down, and blood flowed out of his eyeballs, and then broke into pieces, turning into a mass of sticky and blurred flesh and blood. Who? An existence that cannot be explored, a starry sky that blocks all prying eyes. He trembled, and blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. After a long time, his body gradually calmed down. On the ground, the clumps of flesh with burst eyeballs turned into bloody maggots, crawled along the tree trunk, climbed onto his body, and merged with his body again. Backlund. It was a new day. Hester got up from the bed, stretched his muscles, walked to the window, opened the window, and admired Backlund, which had not been shrouded in grey fog. The matter of the poorhouse had been completely resolved. Except for Mr. A and the extraordinary people of the destiny path hidden in the dark, he was no longer in any other danger. Regarding the extraordinary people of the destiny path, he had an idea in his mind. As long as he did not look for the golden box hidden by Voltaire, he should not touch the joint point of destiny. This was a speculation he made based on his understanding of destiny, and the accuracy rate should be quite high. Since he was born, he has always had a vague feeling, so he has never been to the 3rd floor of this house since he lived there. It should be that his spirit has been reminding him that once he goes to the 3rd floor, he is likely to encounter bad things. Now he understands a little bit that the golden box related to fate must be hidden on the 3rd floor. As long as he goes to the 3rd floor to look for it, he will definitely find it. And this will attract the extraordinary people of the destiny path lurking in the dark. Therefore, before he becomes stronger, he will not go to the 3rd floor to look for the so-called golden box. Now, only the crazy Mr. A is the most difficult to predict. He is really a little afraid of this Mr. A. Who knows what surprise gift he will send to himself again. The head of Bard sent last time attracted the attention of the Nighthawk, so he needs to act to pass the nightmare test. Alas, now I understand why the people of the Aurora Club are basically crazy. It is difficult for any normal person to predict what a group of crazy people want to do, and it is even more difficult to catch them. After 20 minutes, Asta closed the window, went to the bathroom to wash, and then went downstairs to eat. After dinner, Butler Neil came to report the situation of the ancestral property. The manor where the Campbell family started was not very big, but because of its special meaning, the Campbell family has been passed down. Today, the ancestral manor is still planting flowers, including roses, tulips, phalaenopsis, and asters. Its normal annual income is between 3,000 and 4,000 gold pounds, which is not as good as the only large plantation left by the old butler. The income of that large plantation can exceed 4,000 gold pounds in half a year. If there is no accident, the annual income is more than 10,000 gold pounds. This is Asta's biggest source of income. Asta listened silently and asked Neil to handle these things. The annual increase of 4,000 gold pounds, plus the income of the large plantation and his salary as a legal advisor to the Bavart Bank, the total amount is about 15,000 gold pounds a year. Although this is not as good as the wealthy nobles, it is far more than ordinary people, enough to live a very rich and luxurious life. It seems like a lot, but if you compare it to Miss Audrey, the gap will be obvious. Even if he doesn't eat or drink, and saves 15,000 gold pounds a year, it will take at least 20 years to catch up with Audrey's wealth. The gap is too big. Asta sighed and stopped thinking about these sad things. Thinking that he had made a lot of money recently, he was happy again. He waved his hand and asked butler Neil to take out 100 gold pounds and give a bonus to all the servants who worked according to their positions. At the same time, he asked butler Neil to prepare 2,200 gold pounds, and he would personally return it to Viscount Glint. The extra 200 gold pounds is considered interest. It has been almost 3 months since he was born. 10% interest for 3 months is already very high. After solving these things, Asta prepared to go out. When he walked to the door, he suddenly remembered the plant aster. If he remembered correctly, the manor left in the suburbs was called Aster Manor, right? Aster flower, Aster Manor, could such a coincidence happen? He paused in his steps and looked solemn. Any coincidence could be the prelude to a conspiracy. Moreover, he has recently provoked extraordinary people from the destiny path. Any coincidence or chance may contain something terrible. Aster flower. Hastur stopped in front of the door and thought for a long time before he remembered the record about the aster flower. The aster flower represents elegance and mystery. Many people believe that it has magical powers. It was considered a sacred flower in ancient Rome and Greece. Among them, the star-shaped aster flower is used to represent the stars in the sky. Represent the stars. Hastur subconsciously looked up. The gray mist covered the sky above Backland, and the bright sunshine struggled to shine through. The stars that are clearly visible at night are hiding behind the scorching sun without a trace. Asta stared blankly for a while, then laughed and whispered, "Too many coincidences would seem too deliberate. Today is another beautiful day." Hastur called the carriage, got in and headed to Greylint's house. Greylint looked shocked when Hastur returned the 2,200 gold pounds in the form of 220 10-pound notes. As far as he knew, Asta's financial situation was not good. How could he spend this money all at once? "Asta, are you the Baron who assisted the police in detecting the workhouse case?" Greylint said in surprise. "It just happened to happen." No, you are too modest, even though it is a good virtue. The police station gave me a reward, which is quite generous. They have been complaining to the king about poverty, but they can still come up with such a sum of money. It seems that you played an important role in this case. Greylint asked the butler to collect the money while leading Hastur to the study. "You should ask Mr. Greco to help you operate it. Maybe you can get a reward from the king." With no one else present, Greylint spoke much more directly. "The king doesn't like us Campbells very much." Hastur was sitting on the sofa, sipping a cup of Marquis black tea, and his tone was more casual. "Your father Voltaire, well, it is true that he is not very popular with the king. Otherwise he would not have his title reduced by the king because of those ridiculous behaviors. Didn't his title come from gambling? That's not the only reason. Your father lost too much land in gambling and refused to correct his evil behavior, which made him dissatisfied with the king, which eventually led to his title being reduced from Earl to Baron." Asta thought for a moment and smiled. "I just helped solve a case. This little credit is not enough to make the king look at me differently." Greylint chuckled, "It's enough if you add Duke Negan's weight." "Greylint, you are still too young." Hastur shook his head and smiled. "Except for the king's lineage, the Negan family is the most noble. Their influence is already too great. Duke Negan will never express his opinion easily on this issue of title promotion. They even take the initiative to avoid suspicion." "That's right. Duke Negan has kept a low profile in recent years. The king is now more optimistic about Earl Hall and even intends to let his son marry Audrey." Greylint thought about it seriously and realized that it was indeed what Asta said, so he did not continue the topic. The two chatted in the study for another 2 hours. During this period, Hastur told Greylint a lot of mystical knowledge and asked him to learn some ancient Hermetic and Giant languages. After leaving Greylint's house, Asta went to Backland University, and in the evening went to the Brave Bar to chat and play cards with Marich. Another solid day. West Balam. The warlords here are divided, and behind them there are the shadows of many other countries, turning this half of the southern continent into a colony. Tonight, in an unknown town, a black light surged from the center of the town. The black light spread in the wind, covering the entire town in the blink of an eye. The residents of the town walked out of their houses one after another and came to the huge square in the center of the town. Their faces were filled with happy smiles, and their eyes were full of desire. All of them, men, women, old and young, took off their obstructive clothes and exposed themselves naked under the crimson moon. The crimson light falls on the snow-white body, adding an even more hazy aura. Reproduction is the instinct of many living things. Even plants that cannot move still show an extreme desire to reproduce. Reproduction is the continuation of new life and the truth that the world continues to this day. To resist reproduction is to go against human nature. Only by breaking away from the constraints of ethical dogma and indulging the desires from the bottom of your heart can you gain true freedom and happiness. Indulge your desires and multiply your life. As more and more townspeople participated, the atmosphere of desire in this place became stronger and stronger, and wisps of vitality spread out from the men and women, converging on an altar in the center. Mahomet stood in the middle of the altar, using calm and bewitching words to lure the townspeople to take off their restraints and join this grand event. His eyes were full of enthusiasm and a smile appeared on his lips. He could feel that their God was watching here, and he was watching him. Previously, he had always believed that sexual intercourse between men and women was a violation of sanctity. Only by restraining desires can we awaken our divinity from this struggle and see the gods. But it wasn't until he truly met God that he realized that he had gone in the opposite direction. Desire needs to be indulged. Indulging desires is a way to love yourself most. Only by being honest with yourself first can you face the world with the same mentality. Restraint and moderation of desires are nothing but self-deception. This is the instinct of human beings and the reason why all things can reproduce. If everything in the world restrains itself and no longer reproduces life, then how dead this world will be. Here we are, God's gaze is penetrating through the layers of starry sky. My hams was trembling with excitement. Every time he witnessed a miracle, his soul would be baptized. Gathering people together for lewdness, it's really you bunch of human scum. A deep drink broke the tranquility of this place. My hams looked up and saw a large figure surrounding him in the dark night. You lackeys of the church. You are trying to destroy the coming of God. The sea, the dawn. In the captain's cabin, the phantom of the lantern appeared from the wishing lantern and said with a smile, "Now do you believe I didn't lie to you?" He was in a good mood. This time, the Church of Storms joined forces with the Church of the Eternal Sun and the Church of Knowledge and Wisdom to destroy the divine descending ceremony of the Mother Tree of Desire in West Balang. Help him win the bet with the Mother Tree of Desire, so that he can have more confidence to negotiate and trade with the Mother Tree of Desire. It was a small feeling of pride. Bernadette stared at the Jinn god and said, "According to the news I got, the evil god did not personally preside over this divine descent, and the entire divine descent ceremony seems much simpler than before. This is just a try. You are definitely hiding something from me." The Jinn thought for a while and said, "I did hide part of the news. I made a bet with the Mother Tree of Desire. If I can destroy his divine descending ceremony this time, he will give me a tarot card." Bernadette's expression moved slightly. She knew that the tarot cards spoken by the Jinn god must be the pair of tarot cards with mysterious power left by her father Russell. The Mother Tree of Desire originally wanted to use the Devil card as a bet, but I refused. The Devil card is too dangerous for you, so I asked it to replace it with a Temperance card. I'm not going to take the Temperance card. Bernadette refused directly. Things from the Mother Tree of Desire are not that easy to get. The Devil card is very dangerous. Are the Temperance cards safe? The genie looked at the roof of the cabin, his eyes seemed to penetrate the obstruction and saw the stars twinkling in the sky. That Temperance card, I never prepared it for you from the beginning. The Church of Storms teamed up with the Eternal Sun Church and the Church of Knowledge and Wisdom to destroy a large-scale cult sacrifice ceremony in West Balang. Outside, the dawn of the mysterious queen across the sea appears near Demir Port. Extra, the mysterious baron who secretly helped the police solve the Sunrise Workhouse case turned out to be him. On the street, a child selling newspapers holds a pile of newspapers in his left hand and shakes a newspaper in his right hand to attract the attention of customers. He loudly sells today's newspapers to passers-by. "Give me one." Hasta, who was passing nearby, asked the coachman to stop the carriage and buy a newspaper. In the carriage, Hasta opened the newspaper and read it carefully. Judging from the news revealed in the newspaper, the jinn has won the bet. I wonder if the deal between the jinn god and the mother tree of desire has been completed privately. Bernadette's dawn appeared near Demir Port. Could it have secretly entered Lotm and come to Backland? Based on the abnormality shown by the jinn during this period, Bernadette will definitely carry the wishing lantern with her to avoid accidents. It seems that I have to be careful of the prying eyes of the jinn, and it is best not to meet Bernadette. Hasta looked at another news item, not knowing which kind-hearted person told the story about how he helped the police solve the case. The newspapers were full of praise for this young, promising and handsome baron, and they did not hesitate to praise him. Hasta put down the newspaper, feeling a little headache. He didn't want to be so famous. Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. Who is behind this? Greg. This is not his style. Growlant. He should not have such great courage and motivation. It was not until Hasta went to Backland University and met Professor Wayne that he realized that it was Professor Wayne who was behind all this. After years of teaching and educating people, Professor Wayne may not have many students all over the world, but he still has many students, many of whom are outstanding. After learning of Professor Wayne's request, the newspaper called Backland Daily put the news about Hasta in a more prominent place on the front page. Successfully joined the Three Gods Church and the latest news of the dawn occupied the front page. The Backland Daily is a large newspaper covering the entire Lotm, and its gold content is extremely high. Hasta could not say anything except sighing silently. After all, Professor Wayne was kind-hearted. Sure enough, in the evening of the next day, Greg came to visit in person, saying that after the king learned of his heroic deeds, he would reward him and let him attend the party this Saturday. Hasta asked tentatively, "What is the king's reward usually?" Greg smiled and said, "It's a bit difficult to be promoted to a noble title. I guess he will give you some land. After all, the royal family also won a lot of real estate from your father." Hasta didn't know how to describe Voltaire. At the same time, he was also curious about how much property the Campbell family had at that time. Greg looked around and lowered his voice and said, "The kingdom is about to change. If the king asks you to choose between land and gold pounds, you must choose gold pounds." Hasta was shocked and said in surprise, "Is the kingdom going to abolish the corn law?" Greg didn't speak immediately. He just looked at Hasta up and down for a while, and then sighed, "Hasta, you are worthy of being my best friend. You are very sensitive to politics and very smart." "No, I just knew in advance that the corn law would definitely be abolished before Klein was born, but I didn't know exactly when it would be." Hasta murmured in his heart and smiled, "I have always been concerned about the future of Rune. A baron title is too low, it is not worthy of your intelligence and wisdom. Revitalizing the glory of the Campbell family has always been my goal." The two talked about the situation in Rune for a while, and then Hasta mentioned investment. The wheel of fate has begun to turn, and he should make some plans early so that he can get more benefits in the future. He has now paid off Growlant's debt of 2,000 gold pounds, and with the king's upcoming reward, he has a lot of spare money to use. Investment is the best direction, especially when the corn law is about to be repealed and reforms begin. The good times when the land nobles lie at home and collect money are about to pass, and the next is the rise of the bourgeoisie. For example, steel, banking, coal and other fields. That is what Greg and Hibbert are currently doing together. Greg told Hasta tactfully that if you want to enter the banking field, you need very strong funds, at least 100,000 gold pounds to start. Although the threshold for steel is lower, Hasta does not have that money now. As for coal, if he could gather 10,000 gold pounds, he could help Hasta get started. Hasta thought about it and still felt that buying related stocks was more suitable for him. With his current financial resources, he could not become a banker, and could only be a small retail investor. Greg smiled and said, "This is the wisest choice.
Through stocks, 10,000 gold pounds can easily make 100,000 gold pounds. But 100,000 gold pounds can hardly make 1 million gold pounds. Asta understood what Greg meant. He wanted to help him buy stocks and increase his wealth in a short period of time through insider information and operations. Asta really couldn't say no to such kindness. In the end, he could only sigh that retail investors are destined to be cut. Saturday night, 7 o'clock. Asta put on a dress, sprayed on expensive perfume, and dressed up for half an hour with the help of 3 maids, barely meeting the requirements of butler Neil. Attending the party organized by the royal family is troublesome, and every aspect must be exquisite. Butler Neil also specifically reminded him that he must show the elegant and generous side of the nobles at the dinner party tonight, and must not act like at home. Recently, Asta was very casual at home because of the need to play the role of a barbarian, and he did not act like an elegant and decent noble when he went out. This made Butler Neil very worried about his performance at the party tonight. Asta felt that Butler Neil's worry was very correct. The party organized by the royal family can be said to be the most cumbersome and most rule-abiding place in the Lowen noble circle, which just meets Asta's needs to play the role of a barbarian. This is a good opportunity to digest the potion as soon as possible. But he will try to be more obscure to avoid an unmanageable situation. He himself knows that playing the role of a barbarian should be more courageous and fearless, ignoring these rules and regulations, so as to better digest the potion. But in this kind of occasion, being too unruly can easily make his noble reputation fall to the bottom. He can only try to act according to the situation. It's better to go slowly than to make a big fuss. At 7:30, Asta came to the place where the royal family held the dinner tonight. This place is similar to his Astor Manor on the outskirts. They are both manors with a large area. The only difference is that this place is in the center of Backland instead of in the suburbs. Hastur's arrival attracted a lot of attention, and with the appearance of the report in Backland Daily, many nobles also knew about him, the heir to the Campbell family. Coupled with the aura of Voltaire, a famous celebrity, he naturally became the target of many nobles. Hastur kept a decent smile and looked around, finding Viscount Greylint, who was also attending tonight's party. He walked over holding a glass full of wine. Greylint also smiled and came over with a toast, touched Hastur's wine glass lightly, and said with a smile, "Asta, I heard that the king intends to reward you tonight." Maybe. Hastur did not continue to talk about this topic, but walked to a quiet corner with less people to chat with Greylint. The whole person felt much more relaxed. "Asta, you can't have such a temper. As a qualified noble, it is very important to learn to communicate with others." Seeing that Hastur was unmoved, Greylint continued, "For example, Miss Audrey, her temperament does not like to attend noisy banquets, but as long as she participates, whether it is dealing with others or communicating elegantly, she will. It's so perfect." "You're right." Hastur nodded, walked toward the crowd with his wine glass in hand, then walked around them, and came to the corner alone, sipping the wine and admiring the so-called aristocratic elegance. After witnessing this scene, Greylint was stunned for a long time, and finally walked into the crowd with a glass of wine, and skillfully communicated with the familiar nobles. Audrey was naturally invited to tonight's banquet. She came relatively late, arriving at the party around 8:20. Her arrival naturally attracted a lot of attention. Asta used her light to taste tonight's dessert in his free time. It is worthy of being produced by the royal family. The taste and texture are both excellent. It is difficult to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages between them at the moment. Mainly because he ate a little less. If he had tasted it for a while, he would have been able to prioritize the dozens of desserts tonight. Audrey, who was among the crowd watching, naturally saw Hastur, who was far away from the crowd and enjoying desserts. Mr. Hastur is obviously not in the same world as the other nobles. Well, he seems to like desserts. Especially the chocolate cake. He tasted it 3 times. Audrey communicated appropriately with other nobles, and took a look at Hastur when she was free. "I'll try it too." Audrey came to the chocolate cake, took only a small spoonful, put it in her mouth, and tasted it silently. It has a soft taste with a bit of bitterness in the mouth, followed by a mouthful of fragrance, and a continuous sweet taste emerging from the bitterness. The taste is rich, sweet but not greasy, and the slight bitterness adds a lot of flavor.
It is indeed much more delicious than what is made at home.
She tasted another small spoonful and left the place, not tasting the same food too many times, which was the default rule at parties. Otherwise, people will think that you have not seen the world. By the lakeside, Hasta was quietly admiring the moonlight in the lake. Baron Campbell, you are more handsome than the newspapers describe you. A middle-aged man of about 35 years old approached with a smile on his face and a glass of wine.
His eyes were like a ruler, constantly measuring Hasta. The unabashed gaze was like seeing a beautifully packaged product, full of greed and disgust. Hasta frowned and said, "You are Viscount Chelf Baron." The middle-aged nobleman is obviously very proud of his surname. Hasta had no intention of talking to him, so he just said some polite words and prepared to leave. Chelf stopped Hasta, leaned close to his ear and whispered, "As long as you are willing to follow me, I can help you restore the glory of the Campbell family."
Hasta stopped, looked at him, and said calmly, "Say what you just said again." "Young and handsome nobles like you are a very scarce resource in the circle."
"Thank you for the compliment." Hasta had a smile on his face, and Chelf looked proud. Just as he was about to say a few more words, Hasta grabbed his neck and lifted him up.
Under Chelf's horrified eyes, he threw him into the artificial lake. With a plop, Chelf's obviously fat body crashed into the lake, causing a large ripple.
"It's better for you to go down and clear your head." Chelf's face was full of fear. He shouted for help and struggled to swim to the shore.
Although he was fat, he was a good swimmer. However, when he was about to reach the shore and climb up, Hasta kicked him into the lake again. He was worried that he could not find anyone to provoke him so that he could speed up the digestion of his magic potion.
This Viscount Chelf Baron wanted to make him a bunny as soon as he came. He was simply asking for a beating. Hasta glanced around, but unfortunately there was no long weapon that suited him, such as a bamboo pole or a wooden stick. Otherwise, he would let Viscount Chelf Baron experience what it meant to have his head exploded.
Soon, the noise here attracted the nobles nearby to gather.
Seeing someone fall into the water, they shouted for the servants to go into the lake to rescue him. Hasta stood on the shore and did not stop him. When Chelf was helped to the shore by two servants from the lake, he walked over, smiled, raised his right foot, and kicked Chelf in the heart and kicked him into the lake again.
Chelfu wanted to curse, but he took another big sip of lake water. The nobles around him came to their senses and realized that Chelfu's fall into the water was not an accident, but a conflict with someone.
Hasta was very conspicuous in the circle of nobles, and his identity was quickly recognized. The smarter nobles slipped away first, not wanting to get involved in this muddy water. The nobles who were on good terms with Chelfu shouted and accused Hasta of wanting to murder the nobles. Audrey and Glelant also came nearby. Seeing that it was Hasta who was causing trouble, Audrey was slightly surprised and blinked.
Kicking a viscount into the lake in front of so many nobles was really bold and fearless. Tonight was a party organized by the royal family. Even the great nobles had to restrain their tempers, at least on the surface, they had to be at peace.
Glelant hurried forward and pulled Hasta away from here first, so that Hasta would not be kicked into the lake again. "That Viscount Baron is really nothing, but this is a royal party, so don't make it too ugly, otherwise it will easily leave a bad impression."
Glelant carefully analyzed the pros and cons for Hasta to prevent him from acting impulsively again. Hasta just listened silently and didn't care.
Even if the person who said that just now was a prince, he would still kick him.
He finally got a chance to defend himself, so he would not miss it easily.
After a while, Chelfu was finally rescued from the lake, and he coughed up a lot of lake water. Obviously he had drunk a lot just now.
But he didn't dare to come to Hasta directly to settle the account, but just looked at Hasta with resentment, and left the party in advance in disgrace.
It is indeed not decent to kick someone, but the person who is kicked will only be more embarrassed.
And he was soaked all over, and staying here would only become a joke.
After the episode, everything returned to the previous lively. When Greg and the eldest prince of the royal family appeared, it symbolized that the party was halfway through. This eldest prince is deeply loved and trusted by the king, and he is likely to become the new king in the future. Glelant lowered his voice. "It is not possible. When George III fails to be promoted to the Black Emperor in the future, he will be the new king of Rune, Govington too." Hasta thought about it in his heart. Seeing Greg's friendly communication with the prince, he couldn't help but sigh that the Negan family is really good at betting. After Greg greeted the nobles around him, he led the prince to the direction of Asta. Brulint hurriedly tidied up his clothes, straightened his back, made himself look more energetic and elegant, and then took Asta to greet him. Brulint introduced, "This is Baron Hasta Campbell, the last heir of the Campbell family." This time, it was he who helped the police solve the Sunrise Workhouse case. "He is also my good friend." The prince smiled and said, "Young and promising, the kingdom needs nobles like you who are full of wisdom and courage." Asta also replied a few polite words. After just a few simple chats, the prince left first. Brulint glanced at Greg, who understood and turned away silently. "How did Viscount Baron offend you tonight?" "It was just a small matter, and he got the punishment he deserved." Greg nodded, revealed the matter, and said, "After the party, don't leave first." The king's reward. Well, the king asked the eldest prince to come forward. Obviously he is very optimistic about you. Asta understood the meaning of this sentence. The king asked the eldest prince to come forward so that he could be grateful for the eldest prince's kindness in the future. This is indeed an act of optimism. Yes, he is young, wise and courageous, and the Campbell family was once a hereditary earl, so the future is indeed bright. Only people like Cherfu who are blind and have no IQ dare to offend him blatantly. Greg did not stay for long, and left after saying a few words, but his arrival revealed a signal to the nobles around him. Hasta Campbell is a good friend of his, Greg Negan, and they have a good relationship. With the deterrence of Greg, some nobles who originally wanted to stand up for Cherfu tacitly revealed the matter. Hastur, who was not disturbed, came to the small circle of Greylant and Audrey with a glass of wine, smiled and exchanged a few words, blended into their circle, and quietly waited for the end of the party. He was very curious about what kind of reward the king would give this time. At least it would not be less than 2,000 gold pounds, right? If he had given him 10,000 gold pounds directly, he would have let Greg help him invest in stocks and make some money first. With Greg and Audrey present, Asta showed the elegance and decency that a noble should have, especially when chatting. He always impressed every person he talked to. Especially the unmarried girls, their eyes were full of admiration and curiosity when they looked at him. Curiosity is the beginning of the fall. Fortunately, Asta is not a person like Greg. Once there is such a sign, he will stop exuding charm in time to avoid being disturbed by these noble girls in his peaceful life. At 11 o'clock, the nobles who attended the party left one after another. Greg wanted to leave with Asta, but in the end he could only leave alone with Envy. The crowd gradually dispersed, and soon a servant came to Asta and led him into the private space inside the manor. The eldest prince, Greg, and Hibbert were already sitting on the sofa chatting. This is the core power circle of the future kingdom of Lowen. Greg represents the Negan family, and Hibbert is backed by Earl Hall. Both of them are important officials of the kingdom of Lowen today, and are great nobles with power and wealth. Asta just glanced around, and then walked over naturally, saying hello to everyone. In the future, he believes that he will also enter the most core power circle of the kingdom of Lowen. After chatting for a while, the prince asked someone to bring a small yellow-brown box and put it in front of Asta. This is a reward for courage and wisdom. The party ended, on the carriage. Asta put the yellow box on his knees and slowly opened it. There were so many people just now, and he was embarrassed to open it directly in front of the prince. He could only hold back his curiosity, and now he can finally take a peek. There are 3 pieces of paper lying quietly in the box. To be precise, 3 deeds. One of the deeds is a large house in Queens, which was originally a property that belonged to the Campbell family and was exported by Voltaire. The other 2 deeds are noble territories, located in South Wales, with a total area of about 1,000 acres. In other words, it is about 400 hectares. Compared with the real aristocratic territory, 1,000 acres is only about 1/6 of the standard territory of the Earl. This has to mention the talent of Voltaire, who divided his territory into 15 parts, that is, 15 deeds, each of which is about the same size. Normally, the aristocratic territory is not allowed to be bought and sold at will without the king's permission, let alone for gambling. But Voltaire is very resourceful. He did not directly say that this is a bet, nor did he sell it directly to others.
He just asked the nobles who have the deeds to help him manage the territory. As for the output and taxes in the territory, they are the fees for managing the territory. Asta silently put away the deeds, put them back in the box, and then closed the box. It's a pity that the king did not give him the opportunity to choose, otherwise he would directly choose the equivalent gold pounds. With the abolition of the corn law, the land of the nobles will become less and less valuable, and the economic benefits that can be produced in the territory will also be greatly reduced. He could have taken a large sum of gold pounds, went to the stock market to make a profit, and then bought a large amount of land that has become cheaper. The difference between the two is a huge sum of gold pounds. Fortunately, the house in Queens is not bad. Living in Queens is safer than living in the West. As for the territory, he has no time to manage these things for the time being. And it is far away in South Wales, and he has no time to go out for a walk. He can only ask Butler Neil to send someone to investigate first, and consider other things later. The Hall of Stars. 15 days later, Hastur appeared as the Master of the Stars, extending 2 chains of order to lead the Lamp God and the Mother Tree of Desire to come, the Hall of Stars. Hastur sat in the first seat, with a star in his palm, silently watching the Lamp God, who was obviously in a good mood. The Lamp God transformed into 2 golden arms and legs, with a pair of long legs resting on the table, long arms lying flat, and the body swaying gently. A wishing lamp, at this moment, behaved like a person who was carried away by success. After watching for a while, Hastur inexplicably felt that the Lamp God should be very similar to Medici in his early years, with a kind of free-spirited and unruly image. Compared with the unruly Lamp God, the Mother Tree of Desire is very stable, perhaps because it is rooted in the earth, making him appear extremely calm. Even if he loses this bet, he doesn't care at all. The Lamp God said briskly, "Is the temperance card ready? This is my trophy. I asked the believers to put it in the Port of Barons, you can take it yourself. Are you trying to lure me into the trap? Whatever you want. We must change the way of trading. I can't trust you." The Mother Tree of Desire did not speak, but let the Lamp God decide for himself. He had seen the Lamp God's methods and knew his true and false. This time, it was the joint action of the 3 churches that destroyed his God's descent ceremony. This was by no means accidental. The Lamp God must have leaked the news to the 3 God churches. Used their hands to win the bet, while avoiding being targeted by himself. This idea itself is very good, but the wisdom of the Lamp God has not improved much even if he suffered a big loss from the mystery. Based on his understanding of the Lamp God, if the Lamp God is still so powerful now, he will definitely go to destroy the God's descent ceremony in person and make a smug sarcasm to himself across the initial barrier. But the Lamp God did not come forward directly, which proves that his current state is not good. Bernadette did not go there either, which can explain 2 problems. First, Bernadette is not his true lover, and second, the Lamp God is not sure to protect Bernadette during the God's descent ceremony. No matter which possibility is, it can prove that the Lamp God is in a bad situation now. A temperance card can test the reality of the Lamp God. This deal is worth it. I can let the believers hold the ceremony directly and chant your honorable name. You only need to open the gate of the kingdom of God and you can easily take away the temperance card. Facing the temptation of the Mother Tree of Desire again, the Lamp God looked a little unnatural. He sneered on the surface, "My kingdom of God does not want to accept the dirty things with your consciousness." The Lamp God turned his eyes to Hastur, and said with a grin, "I originally planned to give you this temperance card. Do you dare to accept it?" Asta, who was watching the show, was stunned by the words of the Lamp God, but he reacted quickly, "I am just a witness. A small temperance card is not enough to please me." The Lamp God smiled and said, "Then consider it as a small gift from me to your believers." Fuck. The old shady Lamp God is waiting for him. When he started the gambling fight with the Mother Tree of Desire, he had already thought about diverting the trouble to others so that he could not just sit on the sidelines and watch. This was obviously to test his own strength. Just like the trap set by the Mother Tree of Desire for the Lamp God, as long as he made any move in the real world, his strength would be discovered. Unless he admitted that he could not interfere with the real world and that he had no followers who believed in him. But in this way, his deterrence would be seriously insufficient, and he would never be able to stand up straight in front of the Mother Tree of Desire and the Lamp God in the future. According to the style and attitude he showed, he should have accepted this gift with a smile and let the Lamp God's calculations come to nothing. This would be in line with his own setting. But this was obviously difficult. In terms of the real situation, he was even worse than the Lamp God. After all, there was a Bernadette beside the Lamp God, and there were no high-sequence strongmen around him. The Mother Tree of Desire also cast a glance at Hasta, which doubled the pressure on him. Hasta's mind raced, and he said with a smile, "I don't mind notifying the Seven Gods Church and being a behind-the-scenes fisherman. I don't mind." The Lamp God tapped the table with his fingers, and smiled again. "Just consider it a little reward for driving them to destroy the God's descent ceremony." The Mother Tree of Desire did not speak, and this time it was his turn to sit on the sidelines and watch. At their level, few beings can threaten them. But he cannot fully see through this hall of stars, which is a terrible thing. The unknown brings fear, and more unknowns bring greater fear. In revealing the true face of the Master of the Stars, he and the Lamp God stand in the same position. Temptation often requires a price. Hasta looked at the Lamp God meaningfully. "This is just a gift, you can choose not to." The Lamp God showed no fear. In this case, no matter which method he chose, it would not be appropriate. The most appropriate method is to flip the table. Flip the table? Play as a barbarian? Hasta's eyes lit up slightly. An outer god like the Lamp God must be able to speed up his barbarian role very quickly, right? Tisk tisk, are you drifting away, Genie? Or am I unable to lift the knife? Hasta glanced at Genie again, and Genie's heart trembled inexplicably, as if something bad was about to happen. "This is the Hall of Stars, why can't you always find your position?" With a murmur, two chains of order flew out. The Lamp God just wanted to dodge, but the power of the stars suppressed him. The Lamp God was pressed down on the seat and could not move. He could only let the two chains of order penetrate his body and then be hung under the towering hall. The Lamp God wanted to curse, but found that he could not speak. Obviously, there was an extra rule that prohibited him from speaking. He tried to influence the rules of the Hall of Stars, but failed. The other party's rules belonged only to the stars and were not under his control. Not only could he not modify the rules of the Hall of Stars, but he was also restricted by the rules here. This was undoubtedly a shame and a great threat to him who claimed to be in charge of rules and order. He couldn't help but think of the relationship between the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire. There was the same authority between them, but the fallen Mother Goddess was the pillar, and the authority contained was broader and greater. It can be simply understood that the fallen Mother Goddess was the superior of the Mother Tree of Desire. At present, the relationship between himself and the Master of the Stars was similar to that between the fallen Mother Goddess and the Mother Tree of Desire. He is the lower one, and the other party is the upper one. If the other party wants, he can completely devour him, and the price he pays is just to add some more madness. Thinking of his performance when he arrived at the Hall of Stars tonight, it was obviously because he won the Mother Tree of Desire, which made his mentality a little floating, so he dared to be so presumptuous. He regretted his presumptuousness just now. The other party obviously gave him a step down, but he had to kick the step away. The Mother Tree of Desire just glanced at the Lamp God and did not speak to plead. He also felt that the Lamp God tonight was too presumptuous and did not know how to advance or retreat. This is someone else's territory, and they are just a clone. A Sequence 8 dared to show his claws to an existence standing at the top of the outer god, and he really deserved to be punished. When he first came out and chose to take action, didn't the Lamp God laugh at him? Now, the situation has changed. Put away your little thoughts, there is no shortage of an outer god like you here. When Hasta spoke, the dome of the sky flickered, and the stars flashed their own light. Suddenly, the stars shone brightly, making the entire Hall of Stars more sacred and extraordinary. The always calm Mother Tree of Desire was also moved and fell into deep thought. Every star in the starry sky represents an outer god, and there are only 11 seats here. Excluding the Master of the Stars, there are only 10 seats left. Although it is still unclear what these 11 seats represent, they must have extraordinary significance. Every outer god who can come here is definitely better than the outer gods who cannot reach this place. This may be an adventure or a good fortune.
Only recognized and powerful outer gods have the opportunity to sit at the table. The power of the stars. Is there an existence that controls the belonging of the stars? In this universe, is there really an existence that controls the fate of the stars? A trace of fear inexplicably rose in the heart of the mother tree of desire. The lamp god was also shocked by this scene. He had always guessed about it, but after seeing it, he was still overwhelmed. In the entire universe, many outer gods are like stars, but here there are 11 seats, which can overlook the ups and downs of their fate. What kind of transcendence is this? The more he thought about it, the more he felt the horror of this star palace. Sitting high in the first seat, Hasta, who was holding on, saw that both the mother tree of desire and the jinn were silent and their attitudes were much more correct than before, so he relaxed a lot. He had just thought that if he failed, he would send the jinn and the mother tree of desire out of the star palace in time, and then tightly close the star palace to prevent them from coming in again. Anyway, there was no meeting of the outer gods, so he could still control the star palace and gain powerful power. Tolerance and forgiveness, only once. Asta's tone was calm and majestic, and the two chains of order were pulled out of the jinn's body, allowing the jinn to sit back in his seat. Silence. The lamp god was embarrassed and didn't know what to say. He silently took his two golden thighs back from the table and sat up straight. The mother tree of desire obviously had no intention of speaking to help the lamp god. Hasta stared at the lamp god with interest. He wanted to set a trap for himself, but he was beaten up by himself. He must be in a very interesting mood. He must feel this awkward and helpless atmosphere. See if he dares to test himself casually next time. Can't you learn from Miss Justice? You should have a sense of ownership. You are the first outer god to come to the Hall of Stars, and you have not played the role and value you should have. And you sit so far away, without the courage of the mother tree of desire. When more outer gods come to the meeting in the future, don't you think your position will be awkward? Hasta silently complained in his heart, and really wanted Miss Justice to give the lamp god a good lesson. The title of the course is, On the Sense of Ownership and Conscious Service Spirit. Facing the gazes of Hasta and the mother tree of desire, the lamp god was embarrassed for a while, and had to take the initiative to speak. Recently, I have felt the breath of weirdness coming back again. Really? The mother tree of desire became serious and no longer sat silently watching the lamp god laugh. It's just a feeling. You should be able to understand that at our level, any feeling may be a reminder from fate to you. The lamp god was not sure either, he just suddenly had such a feeling. After encountering the Hall of Stars, if he had nothing to do, he always liked to look up at the starry sky, trying to find the existence of the master of the stars from the vast starry sky. Recently, he suddenly had a feeling that weirdness was about to return. The wishing lamp was the cage where weirdness imprisoned him, and he could also vaguely perceive weirdness's state through the wishing lamp. Otherwise, he who was sealed in the wishing lamp would not know that weirdness had fallen long ago. Asta looked normal and did not show any expression. The only thing he felt strange was that Klein had not yet been born from Saphira Castle, so how did the lamp god know it? With the ability of Gimi at that time, it should not be difficult to cut off the connection between himself and the wishing lamp. The mother tree of desire said, before Gimi returns, if you can't return to the starry sky, then you will be imprisoned in the wishing lamp forever, unable to restore integrity and freedom. No need for you to remind me, let's make a deal. The lamp god who was beaten up now has only one idea, to return to the starry sky as soon as possible. As for other disputes of will, he no longer cares. Help me complete the real descent of God, and I will help you return to the starry sky. The real descent of God. Hasta's heart skipped a beat when he heard it. The real descent of God mentioned by the mother tree of desire could not mean that his true body broke through the initial barrier and arrived on earth? Can the wish of the lamp god achieve this step? The genie was silent for a while and said, unless you can snatch the wishing lamp from Bernadette, I can't fulfill this wish. The wishing lamp itself cannot fulfill this wish, but Bernadette has accumulated 2 wishes. As long as she makes a 3rd wish, the twisted wish can exert a power far beyond the wishing lamp itself. With the influence of his personality, it can exert a power beyond the true God. This power, combined with the mother tree of desire, may allow him to descend to the earth in advance. Tell me where Bernadette is. The genie smiled. Bernadette is my favorite one, she is very important to me.
The mother tree of desire was silent, as if thinking about the meaning of the lamp myth. Asta understood the subtext of the lamp myth. Bernadette is his favorite one. If you want to deal with her, you have to pay more. Well, you need to raise the stakes. Only with enough stakes can he choose to betray Bernadette. What do you want? The mother tree of desire also understood the meaning of the lamp myth. The lamp god sighed and said, "You should all know that when I was secretly sealed in the wishing lamp, there was another part of me in the depths of the starry sky. Send that part of me to the earth, and I will help you complete the true descent of God." "I can't do it." The mother tree of desire refused directly. He knew that the lamp god was referring to the uncertain fog floating in the depths of the starry sky, which was also equivalent to an outer god. If the uncertain fog could be sent to the earth, then he could directly descend as a god, without seeking the help of the lamp god. In addition, he had his own followers on the earth, and with the pollution of the bound god, his influence was far greater than that of the lamp god sealed in the wishing lamp. He couldn't really descend as a god, so the lamp god couldn't do it even more. "No, you can." The lamp god put away his relaxed tone and said in a deep voice, "I only need you to send a part of the uncertain fog, not a complete descent. And the uncertain fog has another feature: it is much easier to penetrate the initial barrier than you." The lamp god did not explain the characteristics of the uncertain fog in detail, and still had reservations. The mother tree of desire thought seriously for a while, and said softly, "Hee, the other part of you has already escaped into the depths of the starry sky for self-protection, and has not appeared for a long time. Facing a group of hungry hunters like you, any self-protection behavior is normal. As long as you agree to my conditions, he will naturally appear from the depths of the starry sky at the right time." One Bernadette is not enough. The mother tree of desire was moved. The lamp god leaned back, and his tone became relaxed again. "One of us must give in first to break the deadlock. If we want to come to the earth before all the outer gods and plunder all the fortunes, this is the best deal." After speaking, the lamp god looked up at the starry sky above his head, and his eyes swept across the stars. "Now, there are only two outer gods in this star hall, him and the mother tree of desire. Once the master of the stars attracts more outer gods, the situation will become complicated. For the mother tree of desire, it will be difficult for him to seize the initiative again. Cooperating with him in advance and forming an offensive and defensive alliance can not only better face the master of the stars, but also face the outer gods who will come to the party next. This is also very beneficial for the mother tree of desire. However, he must give in first and pay part of the price in advance. As the mother tree of desire said before, they are not equal. The mother tree of desire is in a better state, so he can only give in first. Okay, I can help you recover some of your strength first. Deal." The lamp god was in a very happy mood, and he unconsciously transformed into a pair of golden long legs, lifted them to the table and crossed them together. But when he saw Hastur's gaze, he retracted his legs again, and his happy mood was poured cold water, returning to his usual calmness. "Tell me what you think." The lamp god said seriously, "First, you must let your believers get a judgment card or a black emperor card, or a related seal that contains no less than the sequence 2 level. After all, the country of disorder has been sealed in the western continent by the mysterious guy. You will definitely not be able to find it, let alone touch it. With the power of rules and order, and then hold the ceremony in the way I provide, you only need to help send part of the uncertain fog into the earth at the critical moment, and the transaction will be completed. As long as the uncertain fog enters the earth, he will naturally gather with me. Even if the so-called 7 gods come, they can't stop it. In this process, aggregation is instinctive, and their status is not enough to affect me." Quote. The mother tree of desire looked at the lamp god deeply. "You will use this to get rid of the seal of the wish god lamp and restore half of your former strength. Don't worry, I will definitely lead you to the earth first, and then go to find the sealed disordered country. I need to take a big risk for this. You should believe my promise. In the starry sky, no outer god can value transactions more than me." The voice of the lamp god was magnificent and majestic, and the golden light flashed around him. It seemed that there was some kind of rule being generated, as if his words were the golden rule, and once they were spoken, they would definitely come true. Asta glanced at him lightly, and the light of the stars fell, breaking the dazzling light of the lamp god. The lamp god coughed lightly and said, Besides, there are stars as witnesses. I can't violate today's agreement. Asta didn't speak, his position was a witness, witnessing everything.
Okay. The Mother Tree of Desire thought for a long time, and finally agreed to give in and help the lamp god restore his strength first.
After all, compared to other ways of coming, finding a tarot card is really simple. The only thing to pay attention to is whether the lamp god will violate the deal.
But this is the Hall of the Stars. Under the gaze of the stars, if the lamp god really dares to regret the deal, it will not only violate his rules and order itself, but also suffer the backlash from the stars.
Happy transaction. The lamp god is in a good mood with hope of getting out of trouble.
He thought for a while and said with a little respect, "This is an excellent gathering place, a place of hope."
Hasta glanced at the lamp god and said lightly, "While time breeds miracles, it is also brewing endless changes." The lamp god was stunned for a moment. "You don't think the cooperation between me and the Mother Tree of Desire is promising?"
"Can I be optimistic? Once any of you achieve your intention, the earth will inevitably be destroyed. Even if there is no change, I will create changes and will not let your plan succeed. At least before I can leave the starry sky, I will not let you get out of trouble first." Hasta muttered inwardly, then slowly said, "The existence of awakening is more than just a mystery, time is not on your side."
The lamp god subconsciously asked, "Who else is about to awaken?" "I am just a witness, you need to find the answer yourself." Hearing such ambiguous and nonsense words, the lamp god clenched his fist slightly. If he couldn't beat him, he really wanted to beat up this master of the stars. Originally, he was in a good mood, but after hearing these two simple words, his mood became heavy again. This guy is definitely doing it on purpose. Haha. You're in a good mood, so I am in a bad mood, right? Seeing the angry look of the lamp god who dared not punch him, Hasta felt much better.
Sure enough, only the lamp god could divert his troubles. Not long ago, I felt an unusual breath in the depths of the starry sky. The sudden opening of the Mother Tree of Desire made Hasta and the lamp god stunned for a moment. Has an unknown existence really awakened? Hasta was also full of question marks. The reason why he said that just now was to find a scapegoat when he destroyed the plan of the lamp god and the Mother Tree of Desire in the future, so as not to expose that he was secretly interfering. Unexpectedly, the Mother Tree of Desire had already felt the awakening of other existences in the depths of the starry sky, indirectly helping him to round up this topic. A breath you have never felt before. The lamp god also became more serious. It should be an existence that has just awakened. He is indescribable. He is like a star wind blowing by. I only had time to feel his breath for a short time. Indescribable. The lamp god was stunned for a moment. Another part of him was called the uncertain fog, which could also be called indescribable in a sense. Could it be that the awakened existence was related to himself? The lamp god looked at Asta again, and saw that he just smiled and said nothing, and his mood became heavier.
You didn't say hello to him? He only stayed for a short time outside the initial barrier, and then disappeared into the depths of the starry sky again. According to human timekeeping, he stayed for about 3 days.
3 days. That's really short. It is estimated that the time when the Mother Tree of Desire opened its eyes once was more than 3 days. The lamp god thought for a while and said, "When did he appear in the starry sky?"
Asta was also very interested in this question. The Mother Tree of Desire looked at Asta and said in a deep voice, "Before you appeared."
Asta looked normal, unmoved at all. Who knows if this was a test from the Mother Tree of Desire? The genie also looked at Hasta, and then waited for the next words of the Mother Tree of Desire. The breath here is different from his. The words of the Mother Tree of Desire disappointed the genie, who thought he could catch the fox's tail this time. The stars are awakening. Asta calmly threw out a profound and unfathomable word. It's the Riddler again. The genie secretly clenched his fist. The Mother Tree of Desire thought thoughtfully. Will God also wake up? Except for the fallen Mother Goddess, the other 2 of the 3 pillars have fallen long ago. Now Weird is about to wake up and return to their positions, so what about God?
Did he not leave any means of resurrection? Perhaps he had already begun to wake up in the more distant years.
Asta smiled but said nothing, which made the Mother Tree of Desire and the genie feel much heavier. The initial barrier can still last for more than 10 years. If either Weird or God fully awakens during this period, it will be much more difficult for them to regain their own path and source than it is now. Even they themselves may be threatened. Time is indeed not on their side. The lamp god said in a deep voice. Hurry up and complete the transaction, otherwise we will all be their wedding dresses. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Hasta glanced at the two of them and said with a smile. Let's end this gathering here. Neither the lamp god nor the mother tree of desire objected. Hasta waved the chain of order to send them out of the Hall of Stars. The empty Hall of Stars, the starry sky above was bright, and the stars seemed to be waking up from their sleep. Hasta looked solemn, thinking of the mysterious existence that the mother tree of desire had just mentioned. The nameless one, riding the star wind and galloping here, appeared before himself, appeared quietly and disappeared at a high speed. This should not be a simple coincidence. That existence, perhaps it is the King in Yellow. Is it possible that the person who was supposed to be born was the King in Yellow? But somehow, by coincidence, he replaced the birth of the King in Yellow. Is this possible? Hasta shook his head, thinking that this idea was too fantastic. The other party is the King in Yellow. How can I replace him? It would be more credible to say that I am his clone. Alas, I don't want to think about it anymore. The most important thing is to improve my strength as soon as possible. Regardless of whether the other party is the King in Yellow or not, and whether I have any destiny, holding power is the most practical way. June 23, Saturday. In the study, Hasta finally finished the large number of legal provisions that he had to recite during this period. According to Professor Wayne's standards, he can now become a lawyer, equivalent to a law student who has just graduated from Backland University. Hasta closed the book, leaned back in the chair, took a sip of marquee black tea, and closed his eyes slightly. Today is June 23, and there are only 5 days left before Klein is born. He originally thought about whether he should go to Tingen specifically to witness the birthday of the future Mr. Fool. After thinking about it, he decided to forget it. It would be easy to arouse suspicion if he went to Tingen for no reason, and now Ince Zangwil was holding 008 and writing a not-so-stream script there. If he suddenly barged in, it might alert 008 or cause unnecessary changes. In addition, Mr. A was secretly watching him, so it was safest to stay in Backland. Speaking of Mr. A, he has not shown up during this period. According to the news from ZO and 4C, the extraordinary gathering there has not been held yet. Maybe Mr. A is being targeted by the Nighthawks and being chased around. Hasta felt it was a pity. Mr. A's extraordinary gathering was of a higher level, and it was difficult for Mr. I of Wisdom to help him now. Fortunately, he still has Sharon and Marriage. Of the Sequence 7 Briber's extraordinary materials, he now only has the most critical one left, the Crying Baby Flower. This is a very magical and rare extraordinary material that is basically not available on the market. According to Sharon's speculation, this extraordinary material is basically in the hands of the Lowen royal family or the great nobles. His best breakthrough is to seek help from Greco. But Hasta has always regarded looking for Grek's help as a last resort. Now his barbarian has only digested 2/3. And there is still about a month before it is fully digested. There is still a lot of time to continue searching. Originally, according to the steps he expected, he would be promoted to Sequence 7 before Klein was born, but the barbarian was very inconsistent with his compatibility, and the potion digestion speed was relatively slow. Boom, boom, boom. Butler Negan knocked on the door. Hasta straightened his posture and asked Butler Neil to open the door and come in. Butler Neil seemed to be in a good mood, with a slight smile on his usually calm face. Asta smiled and said, "What good things happened today? The plantations are sending us the first half of this year's earnings." Asta suddenly became serious. He finally got the money. During this period, in order to purchase extraordinary materials and renovate his house in Queens, he basically used up all his extra money, leaving only 200 gold pounds in his bank account. For a nobleman, this was on the verge of bankruptcy. Butler Neil stepped forward, placed a small brass box on the desk, and opened it facing the direction of Hasta. Lying quietly inside was a stack of 10 gold pound banknotes. Just by looking at the thickness, you could tell that the stack of money was very heavy. Butler Neil smiled and said, "The total is 6,780 pounds. Good.
Asta looked at it for a while before slowly spitting out these two words. Yes, this year seems to be a good year. The income in the second half of the year may exceed 8,000 gold pounds. Butler Neil's tone was equally relaxed and cheerful. As a butler, he knew how difficult the financial situation of the Baron in front of him was. With such a sum of money, the family can hire a dozen more maids and workers, buy a better carriage, and make a few more new clothes for the Baron. This is a gift from the goddess to devout believers. Hastur was very satisfied and drew a crimson moon on his chest. After feeling happy and excited, Asta made plans for the use of this huge sum of money. Among them, he planned to give 5,000 gold pounds to Greco and let him help him invest in stocks. He believed that he would be able to earn back his principal soon. He left 800 gold pounds and deposited it in the bank, so that the bank deposit amount reached 1,000 gold pounds. This money was regarded as his own private money and was a reserve fund. The remaining 980 gold pounds were used for household expenses. It just so happened that it would cost a lot of money to renovate the house in Queens during this time. You can also hire 2 more chefs. As for the other workers and maids, let Butler Neil make his own decisions. After Hastur made the arrangements, Butler Neil took 980 gold pounds from the small box and left. Hastur looked at a box of gold pounds for a long time, stretched out his hand and touched it gently a few times before closing the box. Feeling happy, he tapped his fingers on the table. With the finances improving so much at once, should we invite Greco and Grey Lint to our house for a banquet? Since his birth, almost 3 months have passed since he was born. He has attended dinner parties held by Grey Lint, Greco, and the royal family. He has not invited anyone to be a guest, which would be too rude. Well, we can wait until the new house in Queens is renovated, and then we can invite them together. This way we can have a good name when we treat them to dinner. Sharon and Marriage will not attend this kind of banquet. Then you can invite them to come here for a small gathering in advance. If there are only 3 of us, they probably won't refuse. There happens to be something I need to tell them. Hastur thought for a while and felt that this method was more suitable. He will go to the Brave Bar tonight to inform Marriage and Sharon. Sunday, June 24th. At 8:30 in the evening, Asta asked the chef to prepare special dishes, and at the same time asked someone to buy some drinks and vintage wine. According to Marriage, Sharon likes to drink drinks, which tend to be sour and sweet, while he likes to drink wine, whose blood-like color can make him feel his face turn rosy. Asta thought for a while but still didn't hit him. It was obviously due to alcohol. Around 9 o'clock, there was a knock on the door. Hastur went out to greet him personally. There was no one else in the hall except him. He dismissed the servants and maids in advance and asked them to go down to rest. Even Butler Neil did not show up. Asta, your house is really nice. It's bigger than the one we live in. Marriage walked in naturally, while Sharon lifted the hem of her black silk skirt and gave a slight bow before walking through the door. Sometimes, Hastur really felt that if the mother tree of desire hadn't caused trouble, Sharon would have been a delicate and elegant princess. Everything she says and does is always full of elegance and calmness, as if nothing can cause waves in her heart. She looks to be a few years younger than Marriage, but she is calm and is the one responsible for making decisions. Of course, it may be that Marriage's IQ is really not that good. The 3 of them sat down, and Marriage poured himself wine naturally, swirled the glass, admired the color of the wine, smelled it again, and then took a sip. Well, it's a level better than the wine in the bar, not bad. After Marriage finished speaking, he drank it down with satisfaction. Hastur said regretfully, the time is too hasty, otherwise we can prepare better wine. Most aristocratic homes would have underground wine cellars or other places to store wine. The Campbell family originally had one, but they all ran out. Asta doesn't like drinking very much, so he doesn't have any good wine in his collection, only some common wines, which are used to entertain ordinary guests. The wine tasted very ordinary, so he asked people to go out and buy some good wine. It's okay, I can wait for your next banquet. You won't be disappointed. Speaking of which, wouldn't it be boring to live alone in such a big house? If you and Miss Sharon are willing to move here, I will welcome you. Forget it, I'd better not cause you any trouble. We are not suitable to settle down now. Sooner or later, we will have a peaceful life. Asta and Marriage were eating food, drinking and chatting, while Sharon just watched quietly, silently drinking the specially prepared drinks and rarely spoke. After half the wine, Hasta suggested going up to the study to chat. This is the hall after all, so it's not easy to say something more private. Neither Sharon nor Marich refused. In the study, the bronze mirror was still there, and Sharon chose to sit directly opposite the mirror, occasionally looking at herself in the mirror. Hasta sat at the desk, and Marich sat on the other side of the desk, facing Hasta. You should know that I am a very good friend of Greg from the Negan family. I learned a lot of news from him. Seeing that Hasta looked very serious and Marich also became serious, Sharon also cast her gaze over. During this period of time, you'd better not go to the Brave Bar again and try to find a safe place to hide. What exactly do you know? Your enemies, the Indulgent sect of the Rose School of Thought, may have high-sequence powerful people coming to Backland. This is Hasta's guess based on the messages communicated between the Desire Tree and the Jinn. Now Bernadette should have come to Backland. She has been targeted by the Rose School of Thought, and it is very likely that the Evil One has also come to Backland. He probably won't enter Backland, but he will definitely hang around nearby to see if he can have a chance to catch Bernadette and take away the magical wishing lamp. The transaction between the Mother Tree of Desire and the Jinn involves the Judgment card and the Black Emperor card. As the daughter of Emperor Russell, Bernadette may know the relevant whereabouts even if she does not master one of the tarot cards. It is certain that the Rose School will take action against Bernadette. Marich frowned and thought for a while, then said, if the people coming are only sequence 4, it will be difficult for them to catch me and Sharon in Backland. Hasta glanced at Sharon and said, what if the person coming is above sequence 4? Marich shook his head and said, impossible. Myhams and Zatwin are the main leaders of the Highland resistance. They should not be able to leave the southern continent. Sharon thought for a moment and said softly, there is another one, Jax. He is a sequence 3 silent disciple, but Marich and I are not enough to let a sequence 3 chase Backland. Hasta thought for a while and said, Emperor Russell has this saying, if the city gate is on fire, it will affect the fish in the pond. Maybe you are the little fish that was affected. He did not directly say that the sequence 1 god Sia might be wandering near Backland. Even if you want to force Bernadette out of Backland, there will be sequence 3 or sequence 2 angels coming to help. This is a major event related to the arrival of the Mother Tree of Desire on the Earth, and it is the Supreme Oracle. It is possible for the Rose School to mobilize in full force. Asta, what kind of news did you get? Marich stood up, his face ugly and a little excited. Even if a sequence 4 demigod came to Backland, he and Sharon would have to stay far away. If it were a stronger Beander, they would basically be unable to avoid it. I don't know the specific situation either. You should be careful and try to live near St. Samuel Church during this period. Asta still didn't tell the truth, mainly because Sharon and the others had contact with Bernadette, and they might have a good relationship. He couldn't say directly that the Rose School was targeting Bernadette. In this case, Bernadette would definitely target him. Even if he only revealed this little information, he had already taken a lot of risks. Thank you. Sharon looked at Asta and thanked him seriously, with a rare softness in his eyes. Marich sat back in his seat and said in a heavy tone, Sharon, why don't we leave Backland now and hide outside for a while? I think it's safer for you to stay in Backland now. Asta rejected this proposal. The evil god Sia was wandering outside. If he wasn't careful, Sharon and Marich would be easily dealt with. At this time, no matter how stupid Marich was, he knew that Asta knew more information, but it was just inconvenient to tell them. Sharon nodded and said, we will be careful. After leaving Hasta's house, Sharon asked Marich to wait in her residence first, as she was going to meet a friend. Near the Backland Bridge, the Tussock River meanders by, with abundant water plants on the shore and few people. Under the crimson moonlight, Sharon came like a ghost. The black Gothic court dress looked even more mysterious in the night. After waiting quietly for a while, Sharon suddenly looked up at the sky. In a world that cannot be seen by the naked eye, green pea vines hang down from the sky, interweaving into a dense forest. Such a scene belonging to nature is out of tune with the chimneys of the nearby high-rise buildings, like a beautiful fairy tale imagined. Although it was not the first time Sharon had seen this scene, she was still a little envious. No girl had never imagined herself as a princess living in a castle when she was a child, and they outlined a beautiful fairy tale kingdom in their childhood fantasies. In front of her, a fairy tale kingdom had opened its doors to her. A pair of feet in black leather boots dangled from the pea vines, and a soft voice came at the same time.
Little Sharon, you are in such a hurry to come to me. Is there something urgent? Or, we haven't seen each other for a long time, and you want to find me to reminisce about the past? Sharon glanced at the pair of black leather boots. This temperament was seriously inconsistent with the fairy tale kingdom around her, and instantly broke her beautiful fairy tale fantasy. Someone from the Rose School has chased Beckland. I need a safer place.
Come up, it's really not safe here. Sharon took 2 steps and held a pea vine with one hand. The pea vine flew up and down, and the scenery in front of her changed. She was already in the air.
Under her feet was a cloud platform woven from green pea vines. In front of her was a small house built entirely of pea vines. Some vines were blooming with small flowers, either white or pink, as beautiful as a fairyland.
There, a figure was standing at the door of the small house, looking at herself quietly. This person is the mysterious queen who travels across the sea. The bounty in the kingdom of Lotm alone is worth hundreds of thousands of gold pounds. This is a huge fortune that can make a person worry-free for life. However, neither the navies of various countries nor the brutal pirates can get this bounty, but it makes her famous throughout the sea. She met this mysterious queen at an extraordinary party. After several contacts, the two got along very well and gradually became closer. I just met someone from your Rose School and was thinking about telling you. I didn't expect that you, little Sharon, are also well informed. Bernadette walked forward slowly and stretched out her hand to touch Sharon's head. Sharon habitually took a half step back, slightly tilted her head, avoided the pair of slender jade hands, and said lightly, "Just call me Sharon." Little Sharon, how nice it sounds. It sounds like we have a close relationship. Sharon was too lazy to waste words to correct this question, and asked seriously, "Who are the people from the Rose School this time?" Bernadette put away her smile, frowned slightly and said, "There are quite a lot of people. The strongest one should be the cursed King Baranka. Curse King Balanka." Sharon's heart sank, her face was solemn. She knew that this cursed King Balanka was one of the leaders of the Rose School with her teacher. He is an angel of the Indulgent School, Sequence 2 Ancient Evil. It was he and that evil god who joined forces to overthrow the Rose School, and even her teacher died in that catastrophe. An angel came to Backland secretly. No wonder Hester kept reminding herself to be careful and stay in a safe place as much as possible. At the same time, she also understood that the target of the Rose School coming to Backland this time was definitely not her people. This is what he said: "When the city gate is on fire, the fish in the pond will be affected. Don't worry, their target is not you. You just need to be careful to hide. If you can't do it, run to the Church of the Goddess of Night for help. I believe they dare not be too presumptuous, especially the Cursed King." Bernadette told Sharon to relax and not to be too nervous. "Do you know why they came to Backland? Some time ago, they held a God's Descent ceremony in West Balam, which was destroyed by the Storm Church, the Eternal Blazing Sun Church, and the Church of Knowledge and Wisdom. Now they come to Backland to find trouble with the Storm Church." Sharon thought for a moment and shook her head. "I know them. They will not come to Backland for a simple reason such as revenge. There must be something more important. Maybe they are also looking for believers of the stars." Bernadette sighed.
Believers of the stars. Sharon looked at Bernadette in confusion. The cute look with a little doubt and curiosity made Bernadette reach out her sinful hand again, but Sharon dodged it one step ahead. Bernadette waved her hand and said, "You don't need to know too much. It's very dangerous. If you hear relevant information in the future, don't try to find out the truth. Just send me a message to inform me. You came to Backland for this matter? There are some factors, but more of the reason is to come to Backland to relax." Thinking of what happened some time ago, Bernadette sighed again. Fortunately, the lamp god has been much quieter recently, and the Master of the Stars rarely comes to disturb her in the middle of the night, which makes her feel much more relaxed. "After these people from the Rose School leave, little Sharon, you have to accompany me to visit Backland." Bernadette smiled and invited, but Sharon refused expressionlessly. "I still have a lot of things to do, and I don't have the time. Don't I know you? In addition to being an exquisite doll every day, I like to listen to stories." Bernadette joked.
The weather is good tonight, and I have a lot of fairy tales here. Do you want to stay and listen for a while? No, I don't have time. Sharon refused directly and prepared to leave here.
Bernadette shouted, I have a few suitable dresses here, do you want to try them on?
Sharon's pace of leaving has accelerated a lot. Little Sharon is not as cute as before. Bernadette sighed, and stretched out her hand to disperse the fairy tale world around her, and a pea vine escorted Sharon away from here. After Sharon left, the gentle expression on Bernadette's face was restrained, and a layer of light frost appeared.
She did not tell Sharon that the people from the Rose School were most likely coming for her this time.
Just this afternoon, the first mate who stayed on the Dawn sent a message saying that the people from the Rose School were searching everywhere for the whereabouts of the Dawn and the crew, and their methods were extremely cruel.
Considering that the Rose School had angels sneaking into Backland, it was probably targeting her.
It was normal for the Rose School to target her. She was just curious. Was the God's Descent ceremony in West Balam really that important? Otherwise, why would the Rose School take the attitude of targeting her at all costs? She thought of the temperance card that the lamp god mentioned. It was definitely a trap. Even the lamp god advised her not to go there to avoid being tricked. In what way was she valued by the Mother Tree of Desire? How could it make him target her like this? Did the lamp god hide something? Did the lamp god reach a deal with the Mother Tree of Desire again when he attended the last star gathering?
Bernadette thought seriously and felt that the wishing lamp was a time bomb that might explode at any time. Handing it over to the Seven Gods Church is the best choice, but she is currently the owner of the wishing lamp. Once the wishing lamp falls into the hands of the Seven Gods Church, they only need to make a wish and she will be doomed. This is also the reason why she has only threatened the lamp god but never really took action. Compared with the lamp god, the angel of the Rose School seems to have no threat. Not to mention that this is Backland, even if it is outside, the angel may not be able to defeat her. It is better to stay in Backland for a while. Even if the evil god really comes, he is in Backland. The next day, after breakfast, Hasta took a small box with 5,800 gold pounds and took a carriage to the Bavart Bank. He deposited 800 gold pounds smoothly, and looked at the 1,000 gold pounds on the account with a satisfied smile. At noon, he met Greg at the Backland Bank and handed the small box filled with 5,000 gold pounds to Greg. Greg asked his men to put away the gold pounds, and said with a smile, "You have collected this money so quickly, it seems that your financial situation has improved a lot recently. 2 days ago, the income for the first half of the year was delivered, so I have this spare money." "Haha, when do you plan to treat me, when I move to my new home?" Asta said that he was going to move to Queens recently. "No, 3 Kings Avenue, I remember your original address was on number 1st Street. Well, the house there is not something you can get by helping the police solve a case once. The title deed of that mansion should be in the hands of Earl Hall." Asta was slightly stunned. A noble like Earl Hall would gamble with Voltaire. "Aren't you afraid of affecting your reputation?" Greg saw Asta's thoughts and explained with a smile. Earl Hall bought the mansion from other nobles and let it appreciate in value. This is just a normal investment. Asta was relieved and asked curiously, "How many gold pounds does that house cost?" Greg stretched out a finger, 100,000 gold pounds to start. Asta didn't think of buying back the ancestral house at once. That's 100,000 gold pounds. He didn't know how long it would take to save up so much money. Unless he went out to burn, kill and rob, it would be difficult to earn this money by his own efforts. "Don't be so anxious, you are still young." Greg thought for a moment and lowered his voice and said, "If you can marry Miss Audrey, I think Earl Hall won't mind giving you that mansion as a gift." Asta coughed lightly and said, "Greg, you know, I don't like to eat gigolos." "Asta, Miss Audrey is the most dazzling pearl in our Backland, are you really not tempted?" Asta didn't want to continue discussing this issue with Greg, and turned to talk about his plan to open a law firm in Hillston District. Greg was very generous about this matter, saying that he had already helped him find a law firm in Hillston District, and he only needed a lawyer to be in place, and he could open it immediately. "Tisk, it's really good to have a rich and powerful friend." Hasta looked at the time and invited, "It's getting late, let's go out for lunch together." I don't want to eat you out of money all at once.
Yeah, that makes sense, I'll go to lunch alone then.
Quote. You lose me as a friend this way. A friend who loses because of this is not a real friend. Greg laughed and asked Hasta to lead the way, preparing to have a good meal. After lunch, Hasta went to Backland University and borrowed 2 language books from the library. One was in ancient Hermetic language, and the other was in Giant language, both of which were works that some old professors at Backland University had put their heart and soul into. Looking at the time, it was still some time before Lecturer Foreign finished his get out of class, so Hasta stayed in the library and read quietly. It was close to 5 o'clock in the afternoon when Lecturer Foreign finished his class. The two went to the restaurant together. When Hasta mentioned that he was going to open a new law firm in Hillston District, Lecturer Foreign's eyes were full of envy. When he just graduated from Backland University, he also wanted to open a law firm in Hillston District, the most prosperous commercial district in Backland. But the cost is too high, and money alone is not enough, you also need connections. The court will not allow an ordinary lawyer to open a law firm in such a place. Hasta spread his hands and said, there is no way. My friend is very good at money. Lecturer Fallen came closer and said, aren't we two friends? Well, I think you overestimate my financial situation. If you really count the current available funds, Lecturer Fallen is definitely richer than him. Lecturer Fallen has multiple positions. He is a lecturer at Backland University, opened his own law firm, and is listed in 2 other law firms. He is the legal advisor of at least 5 companies. Even if his annual income is not 10,000 gold pounds, it must be 5,000 gold pounds or more. The two talked for a while, and finally Lecturer Fallen said that he could find 2 suitable lawyers for the newly opened law firm. With him and Hasta, there will be 4 lawyers. Enough to get through the early stages of the law firm. Tisk, this is the power of connections. Boom. Late at night, the dock area roared. The sound was loud, as if thunder had descended, constantly hitting the sea. Hasta woke up from his sleep, and after a while, he got up and got out of bed, turned on the brightest light, walked to the window, opened the window, and looked towards the dock area with a serious face. The weather was very good tonight, and the light of the crimson moon fell, covering the houses around with a thin light red blanket. But in the distance, there seemed to be dark clouds gathering in the sky in the direction of the dock area, and muffled thunder exploded, which made people's hearts beat and it was difficult to fall asleep. It seemed that there was thunder and rain in the dock area. But Hasta understood that this phenomenon was not unusual. That was the vision caused by the high-sequence strongmen fighting. His spirituality was trembling slightly, as if reminding him not to approach that place. Did Bernadette fight with the people of the Rose School? Maybe more than that, the wind and thunder were so swift, maybe the people of the Storm Church had already gone to join the battle. Based on his understanding of the Seven Gods Church, they would first be hostile to the current Rose School, and then target Bernadette. I hope Miss Sharon and the others are not with Bernadette at the moment, otherwise they will definitely be affected. Hasta was a little worried about the current situation of Sharon and Marriage. The high-sequence masters of the Rose School might cause corresponding changes in the pathway. The auras of Sharon and Marriage might not be concealed anymore. As long as one demigod master noticed them, it would be a fierce battle. But he couldn't do anything at the moment, he could only pray that Miss Sharon and the others were not far from St. Samuel Church. After watching the battle silently for a while, Hasta found that the battle in the dock area tonight was not too intense, and the battle might be on the sea. Hasta watched for a while, and could only see the black clouds and lightning constantly entwined and flashing, and nothing else could be seen clearly. He gently closed the window and prepared to lie back on the bed to continue resting. When he just walked to the bed, the window was blown open with a bang, and the 2 windows kept making a rustling sound. Unusual wind. A sense of déjà vu. Hasta sensed something was wrong, and hurriedly took 2 quick steps, holding a cane, and at the same time drew out the sword from the cane, staring at the window with a bad look. The strong wind was still howling, like a normal natural phenomenon. Hasta did not go forward to close the window, and remained vigilant, while retreating to the door. He was thinking quickly about what rules should be made to ensure his safety. Suddenly, a figure came with the strong wind and floated outside the window. With the help of the light in the room, Hasta could see the figure outside clearly.
He looked very handsome, with delicate features, fair skin, a thin figure, and a temperament that was a bit like a clerical worker. Only his eyes were particularly eye-catching, with eagerness in his eyes, looking at everything around him unscrupulously. Mr. A. The first name that came to Asta's mind. He really didn't expect that Mr. A would come to his house at this time. It is estimated that the night watchmen were transferred to the dock area tonight to maintain order and participate in the battle, which gave Mr. A the opportunity to move freely. Seeing that Mr. A did not speak, he just stared at him, as if he was admiring a piece of excellent porcelain. Asta had retreated to the door. Once Mr. A made any unusual movements, he could immediately break out of the door and shout for help. If it really didn't work, he would shout the name of the Lord of the Storm. Maybe the battle tonight has made the Lord of the Storm turn his attention to Backland. Mr. A, long time no see, is there anything for you to visit late at night? Asta felt that he needed to say hello first. After all, Mr. A had already shown goodwill last time. Although that goodwill gift was a bit creepy, you are really extraordinary. Mr. A spoke, his tone was calm and there was no madness or irritability at all. I'm just an ordinary little noble. I was wearing a mask when I attended the party last time. How did you recognize my identity at first sight? Asta was unable to answer. He was so nervous that he forgot this point, so that Mr. A caught the flaw in his words. By the way, isn't Mr. A crazy about beauty? How come he speaks with reason and evidence? I have been good at observation since I was a child. I can roughly imagine what a person looks like through his appearance. This is nonsense, and Asta himself doesn't believe it. So that's how it is. You are really talented. Asta was stunned again. He didn't know what level Mr. A's IQ was at. He would even believe such an obvious lie. It's just a little trick, not worth mentioning. Asta laughed, hoping to get over the topic. I came here to ask you something. What is it? Would you like to join us? I am already a believer of the goddess of night. Asta declined again. He couldn't guess Mr. A's intention at all. How could he choose to join the Aurora Club? The night has never protected you. Mr. A's words were bold but seemed to have a hidden meaning. I will not easily waver in my faith. Maybe. Mr. A looked at Asta deeply, then rode away in a gust of wind and closed the window. In terms of closing the window, Asta can give Mr. A big 5-star praise. Huh. Asta took a deep breath, and the tension in his heart relaxed. He thought that Mr. A came to his door late at night to settle accounts with him, but he didn't expect that he just said a few simple words. This is too strange. Even if Mr. A is really crazy, he would not behave like this, right? He came late at night just to ask if he wants to join the Aurora Society. Is he so keen on preaching? Asta is confident in his appearance, but isn't his appearance enough to make Mr. A do such a thing? And what does Mr. A mean by, the night has never protected you? The goddess of the night has never protected him, so has the real creator ever protected him? This is not a joke. Wait a minute, the protection of the real creator? Asta's heart was inexplicably moved, and he frowned and thought for a long time, but he couldn't remember which existence the original owner prayed to when he held the resurrection ceremony. It seemed that part of the memory of that night was erased. Otherwise, with his memory, it was impossible for him to not remember such critical information. Could it be that the original owner held the resurrection ceremony to pray to the real creator? Moreover, the real creator also provided the original owner with some protection. Impossible. Asta's heart was full of waves, which was more exciting than Mr. A coming to the door tonight. The original owner was just an ordinary person who had not even entered the extraordinary world. Even if he prayed to the real creator, he would most likely go crazy directly, and a small probability would be directly dead. It was impossible to attract the attention of the real creator, let alone obtain his protection. It must be that he was suspicious of Mr. A's appearance, so he made random guesses. Asta took a few deep breaths again, and slowly calmed down his irritable mood. Looking at the lamp that was constantly emitting bright light, Asta chose to keep it on. He walked to the bed, put the sword and the staff in a place where he could easily take it, and then lay down on the bed. After being disturbed by Mr. A, he didn't feel sleepy at all. Alas, if this goes on, I don't know if Mr. A is crazy, but I will definitely go crazy. Is it Mr. A's real purpose to make himself crazy? Wow, Mr. A is really shrewd. I still have to move to Queens as soon as possible. I believe that by then, it will be difficult for Mr. A to knock on the window to visit in the middle of the night. Asta's reverie continued until he fell asleep at dawn. But he didn't sleep for long before he was awakened by the knocking of the maid outside the door. He yawned and stayed in bed for more than 10 minutes before getting up. He went to the bathroom to wash up and take a bath, and then he felt refreshed. After going downstairs to eat, butler Neil came to report what the family had done recently and how many maids and workers they had hired. Asta originally wanted to interview these new maids and workers in person, but he felt it was too much trouble, so he finally handed all these matters over to butler Neil. Now that the family affairs are on the right track, even if a few malicious termites appear, it doesn't matter much. He only needs to find a time and make a rule to make them all show up. At around 9 o'clock, Asta went out in a carriage. He needed to go to the Hillston district to find someone to decorate his law firm. For example, the style of the law firm, the charging standards for ordinary cases and commercial cases, whether to have a big reward when opening, etc., all need to be handled by him personally. For these things, he originally wanted to ask Lecturer Fallen for help, but Lecturer Fallen was busy with lectures recently and had little free time. It is said that Professor Wayne assigned him a lot of extracurricular homework, which kept him busy every day. With no one to order, Asta had to do the work himself. When he was busy in the afternoon, Manager Harley heard that he was going to open a law firm here, and deliberately passed by here to take a look. You guys are usually not busy in the afternoon, right? If there are no customers, it's usually pretty quiet. It's good to be idle. Asta's face was full of smiles, and then Manager Harley helped here until 7 p.m. before leaving get off work.